So for this version, we're going to use our fingers. And what I like about using the fingers is you get a lot of percussive sounds out of it because you're actually touching the string. So when you do different mutes, you get this nice sound that you can get just at the drop of a hat, just if you want. It's nice. With a pick, you can do that, but it's a little more sharp sounding. It sticks out a little bit more. This has a little bit more of a grounded feel, sort of a cool groove when you do stuff like it's got a nice feel to it when you do that. So the start of the solo, we're going to cover the two solos because we're not really teaching them note for note. We're just going to run through the techniques involved in it. And the fun part is a lot of them can be transferred to other songs. So if you write your own solo, you could borrow a lot of these techniques if you understand the theory behind them as well. Okay, right off the bat, here's what we have. So the techniques involved in that, I call these stabbing bends because you're just going for it. Every single time it's a brand new starting over point. So it's a lot of people bend and they keep it up. He's really just stabbing it every single time he hits it. So what you'll notice is I use my middle finger a lot whenever it comes to just playing single notes. And my thumb sort of just sits on a lower string, kind of like a bass player's thumb would. The first finger will come out in certain occasions when I have to do certain rolls and things that require a little more speed. But the middle finger is kind of my go-to finger when it comes to playing individual notes. Then we have the quick hammer-on pull-offs, the quick flutters I like to call them. So that's just a quick hammer-on to a pull-off. There's a lot of feel, so because he's using his fingers, some of the notes, the touch that he has is amazing, will be louder than others. Sometimes it'll be such a silent note that it's barely there. Like that. You'll just hear it in the background. And then sometimes he actually plucks the note pretty hard. Like that. So his dynamic range is huge. You can go from really quiet and then just boom, come out and get you. The next part's really interesting over an A7 chord. We've got this harmonic pattern. Now if you notice my right hand, I'm using my thumb for the most part to kind of strum through the notes. We start off with a couple harmonics, natural harmonics. Then we outlined the arpeggio of an A chord. And that's really fun when you understand the connection between the chords and the scales that you're playing. Makes everything make sense. All right, then we get to the top and we do this whole step bend at the 12th fret, which is very interesting because it almost sounds like it needs a half step bend, but it's a whole step bend. Remember how to measure that. Go up 2 frets. Then we walk down, we outline a D minor chord. That's fun because you get to bar across. And then with the right hand, I just do this middle finger, index finger, thumb pattern. Like that. And then one more note, we're going to go to the 4th string, 12th fret. So it's a backwards cascading arpeggio. Like that. Then we stay in this area and we go like this. After that little hammer-on pull-off technique right there, I like to use my middle finger on the left hand, on the fretting hand, hammer on the pinky and come back off. That can be a little difficult for people because the pinky is kind of weak sometimes. So you want to go back to your spider exercises that we teach on the site and get that pinky up to speed, okay? So we're going to do another hammer-on pull-off real quick. And then here's that dynamic thing I'm talking about. We're going to go back here to the A note. We're going to barely play it. I played it a lot louder than he does, but it's there. Now, he does some really cool mutes, and an open string actually comes through when he does this. It's like that, really fast. That's hard stuff to teach because it's really his bag of tricks as far as his dynamics go, and it probably just feels really natural for him to do that, but to teach it's very difficult. It's kind of just adding a percussive element before the next note. So I would do that. He just goes, so he adds an open G string, like that. Sometimes it'll be a muted note. Sometimes it'll accidentally come through as an open string, like that. And then we slide in from the 9th fret to the 10th fret 2nd string, just like that. And do you notice I never leave a note just sitting there? I give it a little bit of flair at the end. Sort of a little vibrato, just a shake, just to keep it alive, okay? We have the country bends. This happens in the Hotel California solo that I taught. And we're here in the D minor pentatonic area. We're going to bend the 3rd string, 12th fret up, whole step. Now with your pinky, you can hit this 2nd string, 13th fret, and we just play it really quick, staccato. Remember what that means. Just really fast, okay? Then we do another bend. Then we do the old country bend backwards. So we flatten our pinky over the top of the 2 strings at the 13th fret, and we do the backwards cascade with the right hand. I didn't measure that one out too well. Let's do that again. That's a classic move right there. Anyone from the Eagles to Stevie Ray Vaughan, a lot of people use this to get a lot more sound out of a bend. It's great. Okay, so I really love the idea of the backwards cascade with the right hand. Middle finger, index finger, thumb. Da-da-da, 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 like that. So if you leave your pinky flat across, bend that 3rd string 12th fret up, come backwards and then release the bend, get that nice country sound, if you want to call it that. Then there's a C chord coming up, so we're going to outline that in a very interesting way. We're going to slide into the 1st string, 13th fret. Notice we end up here at the C note, very important. Middle finger doing most of the work there. Now we got some bends coming up. Now, the bend with the vibrato with the top, that's going to be really, really important, okay? So we bend up, and we get to the top, we shake it. Best way to develop that, I have a whole system to developing your vibrato with bends, but think of it right now as just a bend, and then you release a little bit and come right back, release, come back, release, come back. Keep that idea happening, and you'll get a nice vibrato at the top. In this case, I'm going for more of a frantic sound, where it just kind of go crazy at the top. All right, some more bends there. The pinky has to do a lot of overtime. Sometimes people like to just go to their ring finger for this part. It depends, whatever you like. Pinky, ring finger, they're both going to get sore after this. Now an interesting thing happens. So what we do to go into it is we start on the 2nd string 10th fret. We jump to the 1st string 13th fret and do a pull off. Go back to the 2nd string 10th fret. Back to the 1st string 10th fret. So we get this nice. Notice the right hand is a lot of thumb and middle finger. So get used to this. It's kind of cool. I like to roll my 1st finger too. There's another technique for you. You have to roll your finger to kill one of the notes as you come off of it. Otherwise it stays. This isn't the end of the world for this song when you go and you hear a lot of bleeding happen, but later on when we get into that stuff, we're going to want to roll the finger to keep them separated, okay? All right, then we go back to the 2nd string 13th fret, bend that up. And now there's kind of an interesting like harmonic that happens here, but I just attribute that to being the 1st string 10th fret coming back. Now the next part's really cool. We're going to bar across at the 3rd fret, the 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string. We're just going to play them. Notice the right hand. So this is when you can use 3 of them in a row. Boom, boom, boom. Another cascade, this time this direction. Then we reach up, 6th fret to 3rd fret. That outlines the chord perfectly. That's so awesome how you put that together. And then there's a little bit of a cool... You like how that really quick, it's like a rake going across 3 notes. And it's 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret. So when you hit the G, what some people do is they just use their thumb. They go G, C, E, and they go like that with their thumb to rake across. Totally acceptable. You can also do 3-fingered rake. This is really, takes a lot of practice. Thumb, index finger, middle finger. But you have to work on going da 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 da, and eventually da-lit, da-lit, da-lit. It's all one movement. When you can do that, that kind of stuff makes more sense. So I really recommend doing the 3-fingered if you can, and then rolling the finger a little bit. If you leave them all down, it creates a chord, which is cool, but in this case you want to kill it as you go. Once again, notice I'm never leaving a note just alone. I'm shaking it at the very end, okay? Then you come back, do the walk again. And there's kind of an interesting... If you think of slap bass, this is really cool about using your fingers. You could pluck the string. You don't just have to play it like this. You could pluck it, which I consider pulling the string out a little bit and letting it slap back. Little slap bass going on there. It's kind of a cool technique. But that just requires taking your finger and lifting it just a little bit and letting it come back and hit the fretboard. And you're going to hear this a lot when you play Mark Knopfler stuff, especially when he's going to town on a note, really wants to make it come through, break out dynamically. Okay, that's the end of the first solo. Let's check out the second solo and the techniques involved in that. Remember too, I can't stress enough, I'm not teaching you the solo, because that would be putting tab on the screen, that would be a whole bunch of stuff. This isn't about that. You can find the tab almost anywhere for this. I really want to show you how to get to the details of the song technically, okay? Now the next part, we go back here. We're going to be at the 10th position. So we're going to go some pentatonic stuff there. Notice the thumb coming in at the end. And then this is a really cool thing. We do a quick bend. And there's some more flutters. We're following a scale though. And if you really get to know your notes, you're going to see how that follows the C scale. Okay, everyone's favorite part, at least my favorite part. I'm just going to assume everyone likes it too. What we're going to do is we're going to do the 2 percussive hits. So it's going to be thumb, middle finger, even though you can't see it buried back there. And I do this on the 3rd string and the 2nd string. And I take my left hand and just barely touch the strings just to give them some dead sounds before we do this. All right, so it's a 2 mutes. And then notice how much the thumb's working here. It's a lot of work for the thumb. And then we go into this awesome lick, which this technique's awesome. I use it all the time when it comes to outlining a bar chord. So if you know your 4th form bar chord, what we're going to do is we're going to take the high end of that and we're going to make a lick out of it. So we slide up with our middle finger to the 3rd string, 9th fret. We do a little hammer-on pull-off right here. We go 8th fret to 10th fret, and we come back to the middle finger. So it's this really nice. Now, we could just keep repeating that for now. So I'm doing a hammer-on pull-off, then the thumb's playing the low note. But what's even better is they bar across, he bars across, and then he does this really great double note. It's a double stop sound. So what I'm doing is I'm still doing the same technique we just did, but I'm adding this high C to the whole thing. In order to sound that note, I have to use my middle finger of my right hand to make that come alive. So you get this nice double stop sound. Hammer on just on the 2nd string, pull off, and then drop down to the low E with your middle finger. Then we have probably one of the most difficult runs of the song, especially if you're going to use your fingers for this, because you have a lot of cascading that you have to do. So there's a lot going on that I have to slow down and figure out. So use your use your thumb on the 3rd string, bend that 12th fret up like that, and then quickly on the next 2 strings, 10th fret, we're going to go. So first of all, you might want to just practice going. If you can't quite do the separate fingers, you could just do the thumb. Just use your thumb like a pick the whole time. I'm going to use my fingers though. Then we pull off on the 2nd string, 13th fret to 10th fret. So now we continue on from there. We're back to the 3rd string, 12th fret. Okay, so once you go fast, it's kind of difficult because of that cascade. Then with your thumb, we go like this. So it's just a pull off onto the next string. So we go 12th fret to 10th fret, pull off to the 12th fret of the 4th string. And then we have some more difficult cascading. Ready? Now we're on the 4th string, 10th fret, and we're going to hammer onto the 12th fret. The next 2 strings, we're going to go 10th fret to 10th fret again. So we're going to go 1st finger on the right hand to middle finger. Like that. So we get this. The trick is to make it roll. Okay? And then just come back to the 3rd string, 12th fret. Like that. Practice that a couple times, like a round. Okay, once you have that, another really cool part. The whole song's cool. So I'm going to go to the 2nd string 10th fret, then the 11th fret. But before I hit it, I have to mute the strings before it and get a nice little rake into it. Here's that feel, that percussive feel you can get with your fingers. So what I do is I just bring my first finger and I lightly touch the middle 2 strings. And with the right hand, I'm going to go like this, like that. So you have the 2 dead sounds. Then with your middle finger, you're going to hit this fretted note. Interesting, isn't it? And then I do one more set of mutes, and then I bend the 11th fret up. This is a great country technique. 2nd string, 11th fret, up a whole step. Drop your pinky down on the 1st string. This is killing my middle finger, by the way. And hit the E as it's bent. Come back to the 2nd string, unbend it, and then come back to the 10th fret of the 1st string. So you get this nice bleed over from these notes. That's a priceless country technique if you can get this. Love plucking that last note. Sounds great. Okay, now for the part people are sometimes afraid of, and I can see why. It could be a little daunting at first. So we're on the 1st string, 13th fret, pull off to the 10th fret, dip down to the 2nd string, 10th fret, come back to the 10th fret of the 1st string. And you just do that with kind of an interesting right hand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go middle thumb for the 1st note, thumb for the 2nd note after the pull off. When you come back to the 1st string 10th fret, we're going to use our middle finger. That's the only time the middle finger is going to be playing. So watch this. There it was at the end there. Then you start over with the thumb. Notice my 1st finger is rolling a little bit to kill the note that was just playing. Otherwise, you'd get this. See, it's too much bleeding over itself, so you want to make sure you kill the previous note by rolling off of it, okay? This takes a lot of practice, this thumb technique. So just do that for a long time until it really rolls, and then go on from there. The next thing we're going to do is just add our middle finger to the 2nd string 11th fret, and that's going to be our next set. So almost identically the same thing, just a little bit different. So let's start again. Now middle finger at the bottom, so we'll go. You notice once you really get going, the right hand really rolls with it. It's great because your thumb is just doing this back and forth, and this is coming in to save the day at the end. And then we move everything up 2 frets and just do that same thing here at the 15th fret. A lot of those little plucks going on. Even if with this whole lesson you just learn how to do that, it's worth it. And then you might change your mind and want to start using your right hand fingers instead of a pick all the time. Then there's some more bends. Then more flutters. So it continues on sort of like before. I can't emphasize enough how much just using your fingers is a technique on its own, and that it could really revolutionize the way you play guitar. Even if it's the rhythm part. Using your fingers, or anything where you're doing some strums or flamenco type stuff, you're going to be glad you can utilize your fingers a little bit. So maybe give it a try even if you're not comfortable with it right now. And then if you want to abandon it completely, you can use the pick, it's fine. But I really think it's going to add a lot to your playing. If anything, just a lot more feel. And then you're going to feel more connected to the instrument because you're touching the strings instead of holding a piece of plastic. All right? I hope you guys enjoyed that technique video. We're going to be doing a lot more on the artist series stuff. Still working on that. I'm telling you, these are a lot of work this time, but it's going to be worth it. Okay, guys, we'll catch you soon. Thanks for watching.